Morbius appeared first as an antagonist in The Amazing Spider-Man in 1971, and eventually evolved into more of an anti-hero. If you're gonna run, do it now. For years before that, Marvel was actually forbidden from using characters considered more on the supernatural side, so it was a really big deal when Morbius finally made his debut.
There's something inside of me that wants to hunt and consume blood.
He was part of a much darker turn within Marvel, one that, fortunately, fans fully embraced. After all, everyone loves a good monster story. There's something about the character that stoked people's imaginations. It really can grab a hold of you. Johnny! It certainly did with me. In the film version of Morbius that we're bringing to you now, he's also a part of a much larger universe. If you've seen the last Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, you know the multiverse has officially opened. And there's all kinds of opportunities for villains to meet up, thrive, and maybe even nurture their more sinister intents. That's all I'm gonna say for right now.
Welcome back, everyone. This is my new Morbius trailer video. One of a couple new trailers. We're actually getting even more Morbius footage next week. Of course, I'll do a video for that too. There's a whole bunch of Spider-Man Easter eggs here for all the versions of Spider-Man. Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, as well as Tom Hardy's Venom. So we'll break it all down and how everything is connected after Spider-Man No Way Home. Thank you very much, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, for breaking the multiverse so that we can have all these crossovers. Tell that multiverse Illuminati not to be too hard on Doctor Strange. We really wanted all these crossovers. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing a giveaway for the new Spider-Man No Way Home Blu-rays they just announced. There's a whole bunch of extra footage of Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and Matt Murdock Daredevil. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and post all your theories about how Morbius is going to be connected to the MCU, given what they just explained in Spider-Man No Way Home with the multiverse crossing over. Clearly from that clip that I put at the beginning of this, Jared Leto is saying that they are going to be doing some big Sinister Six crossovers in the movies in the future and crossover with the MCU. Tell me you're crossing over with everyone without telling me you're crossing over. There's a whole lot going on in this new Morbius footage too, a lot of new footage of Matt Smith's villain character. We finally got some details from Sony about him, so I'll explain what's going on with his character. But the big thing here is which universe is the Morbius movie taking place in, and how do they set him up for Spider-Man Sinister Six crossovers, with Venom crossovers, any other versions of Sinister Six characters are going to do in the future, and MCU characters like Blade. Because of course we want to see Morbius, the living vampire, crossover with Blade, the vampire hunter. How can you not do that?
Sure you're ready for that, Mr. Whitman?
So after Spider-Man No Way Home, we still have what you would consider the core MCU movies like Spider-Man No Way Home, all the stuff that Kevin Feige makes personally with just the Marvel Studios people, sometimes in collaboration with Sony. Then you have all the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, then all the Sony-driven Venom movies and Spider-Man spin-off movies with all the Sinister Six characters that they control. Technically, all of those take place in different universes. Venom Let There Be Carnage is the best example of that. If someone doesn't understand how things are connected, just show them the Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene and the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene. Like, see, he's over on a different universe, he jumps over quickly to the MCU Earth, then comes right back. It's a really easy template for how they're going to do crossovers in the future. But technically, because of what Doctor Strange and MCU Spider-Man did in No Way Home with the two different spells, technically everything, all these different versions of Spider-Man, different versions of characters, different universes, are now canon to the MCU. So we should be calling it the Marvel Cinematic Multiverse. But because there are so many people making so many movies, they do have to keep it straight behind the scenes, which is why they still kind of consider the MCU separate from the Sony films, at least on a structural level. So for instance, the Morbius movie is taking place in the same universe, the same Earth, as the Venom movies.
Who the hell are you, man?
I am Venom.
They're driving creative on most of those films. It would make sense they put all their films on the same Earth just to make crossovers simpler to understand. So when you see Michael Keaton's MCU Vulture show up hyping a Sinister Six team up, like, hey, Michael Morbius, we should stay in touch, putting together a team. Technically, that makes him an alternate universe version of Vulture who just looks and seems very similar to the original MCU Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, he's dressed the same, he's meant to feel the same, but because of the way they explain these multiverse crossovers, he would be a variant of MCU Vulture. Because in this scene where Morbius is being hauled into prison and they cross paths, he is still on his original Earth in that Venom universe. He hasn't come to the main MCU Earth yet. That's the important thing to remember. Like, during all of Venom Let There Be Carnage, he was on his original Earth until the very end in the post-credit scene. There are a ton of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire Easter eggs in this, like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man suit, and the version of the Daily Bugle is Tobey Maguire's, but the version of Oscorp looks like Andrew Garfield's, one from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, and in that Daily Bugle newspaper, they reference Rhino and Black Cat, two characters featured during Andrew Garfield's movies. But again, I think it's the same explainer as it is for the Tom Holland MCU Spider-Man references. In this universe where Morbius and Venom come from on their Earth, they have a version of Spider-Man who wears or at one point wore a costume that looks similar to Tobey Maguire's costume. They have a version of Oscorp in this universe that looks kind of like Andrew Garfield's and some of the same Sinister Six villains. But it's not literally meant to be the Earth where Tobey Maguire comes from or where Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man came from. Now, their version of Spider-Man in the Morbius and Venom universe might be an Andrew Garfield variant. For instance, he might still look like Andrew Garfield underneath that costume, but he'd still be a variant, technically. There's another trailer scene where Tyrese's character and the police are referencing the stuff, quote-unquote, that went down in San Francisco recently. That's them referencing the events of Venom Let There Be Carnage. Just confirming that this takes place in the same universe as Venom. It's only when it comes to the legacy franchises like the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man movies, and the core MCU movies that they have to use the multiverse crossover to sort of bring all these characters together. So they don't wind up retconning any big plot details about Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. And given what they did with the Venom Let There Be Carnage post-credit scene, bringing him to the MCU using Doctor Strange's spell, then sending him back to his original universe in the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene with Doctor Strange's second spell, my early theory right now is that it'll be almost the exact same situation with the Morbius character. They'll have some kind of Morbius post-credit scene or a tag scene at the end where they tease him briefly crossing over into the MCU for a hot minute, then coming back to the Venom universe. As for all the new footage of Matt Smith's villain character in the movie he's supposed to be playing a version of Loxias Crown from the comics, also known as Hunger. Sony confirmed that they've changed his backstory a little, and in the movie they're just calling him Lucian and Milo, two different names. His new backstory in this is that he's a childhood friend of Morbius, they grow up together, he's born with the name Lucian into this really wealthy family, but Morbius befriends him and renames him Milo, so for most of the film when they're together, he just calls him Milo. Matt Smith said that because of the genetic disorder that he suffers from, that both of them suffer from, and because he's rich, he grows up basically just living life to the extreme, spending money left and right, trying to metaphorically suck the marrow out of life. So you see where I'm going with this. They both become scientists trying to find a way to cure their genetic disorder. Morbius finds the cure. It turns him into the Morbius comic book character, giving him his powers. And Matt Smith's character steals the serum that he develops, uses it on himself, and that turns him into a version of Hunger from the comics, with the same basic vampire-like powers. And he starts literally sucking the marrow out of life. In the comics, Hunger was an agent of Hydra who captured Morbius to experiment on him, and they both wound up disappearing in this giant explosion at the end of the issue. Later, he reappears as the Hunger character with the same vampire-like powers as Morbius. All these scenes seem like Matt Smith's character learning about Morbius after his transformation, what's happened to him, and then just stealing the serum for himself. The way Matt Smith explained it is that Morbius is afraid of his powers because they're trying to play him like an anti-hero. He doesn't want to hurt people. But his character, his Milo villain character, embraces the powers, goes completely off the rails, and starts killing a bunch of innocent people, and that's why Morbius has to take him down. You can see Matt Smith using his Hunger powers here when he blasts Morbius back with his shockwave on the street. So it's not too dissimilar from what happened with Venom Let There Be Carnage in the Carnage origin story. But like I said, they're going to be releasing the next big Morbius trailer on Monday with a bunch more footage, more Andrew Garfield, more Tobey Maguire Easter eggs, Tom Holland MCU Easter eggs. I'll post my video as soon as they release it. Make sure you have alerts enabled for my channel to be the first to watch that. And I'll be keeping the Blu-ray giveaway open in all my Marvel videos in the next month while we get ready for Moon Knight episodes. Everyone click here to learn all about Superior Iron Man in Doctor Strange 2, and click here for my new Spider-Man No Way Home deleted scenes video with Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and all the Matt Murdock Daredevil deleted scenes. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.